Guys, you are in trouble. Let's untangle it. Hi, I'm Erickson, the curly head behind the Pulling Curls podcast, where we untangle pregnancy, parenting, home, and even travel. We know there's no right answer for every family, but hopefully we can spark some ideas that will work for yours. Life's tangled, just like my hair. Okay, before we get started, the tips in this podcast could 100% save your booty after you have a baby. So just head on over to iTunes and give me a little love for these kind of tips that can really help you out post-baby. Okay, you have a baby. All of the attention shifts to the baby, which is totally not fair because you've had a total medical event as well. But it just happens. So today I want to talk about some trouble signs that show you need to get help for yourself after you have the baby, because things can happen, usually your first baby, like everything's hunky-dory. But on second, third, fifth babies, you really need to watch out for these things. So let's talk about them. FYI, they will probably review these things with you in the hospital before you go home as well. I always tried to make sure my patients were very aware about what they should be watching out for themselves before they went home, because, you're going to see a pediatrician quite a lot for your baby, and they're very available over the phone versus your OB. A lot of times people only see them once, although I am hearing that a lot of people are getting 2 visits with their OB after they have the baby, which I think is awesome. We totally need more care after we have the baby for mom. But let's talk about some of those trouble zones and what to watch for. Do you feel prepared for your delivery? In just 3 short hours, you can be prepared for the confident, collaborative delivery you want. You'll know what to expect and how to talk with your healthcare team, and there are no boring lessons in this class. I'll use humor, stories from my 20 years in the delivery room to engage both of you. I love how Alyssa told me that she found herself laughing at things that used to sound scary. Most of all, you guys are going to be on the same page from bump to bassinet. Join the online prenatal class for couples today. You can save 15% with coupon code UNTANGLED. You can find the link in the show notes. Okay, the first one is bleeding. So it is natural and normal to bleed quite a lot after you have a baby. Most people, I think, bleed about 3 weeks, maybe even just 2 weeks on their first baby. But on each baby, it usually gets longer and more bleeding and more annoying because, right, it's annoying. So one of the things you'll notice, especially after second baby you're on, you're going to start to have some more blood clots come out, and they can be kind of big. Now, if you have a blood clot that's larger than a golf ball, that's kind of the size that we watch for. You need to call your provider. That shows that blood is kind of pooling and not stopping, and you need to probably get some help. But if they're smaller than that and you just notice them in the shower or the toilet after you pee, it's not unusual. Just keep an eye on those sizes. It's not fun though, I'll agree. Now, as you're bleeding, it will slowly taper, right? It's not going to be like full-fledged bleeding and then faucet turns off and there's no bleeding the next day. It's just going to slowly taper. But if you find that all of a sudden your bleeding jumps up, that shows that you're doing too much. And I have so many friends who are second, third, fourth time moms who call me and they're like, my bleeding was almost gone, and then all of a sudden today it's back and it's like a lot. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. What did you do today? And they're like nothing. Like I just did like a trip to Costco and Target. And I'm like, whoa, Nelly. Costco almost always involves lifting things. You shouldn't be lifting things. You should be having your feet up more. So initially, when you see that blood increase, you really need to think, I am doing too much. I need to put my feet up and rest more. I had a friend who mentioned that she was planning on basically just staying in bed for the first week, by the bed for the second week, and around the bed the third week, which is almost true. Now, I am a believer that we need to get up and move and not just be chained to the bed, but I also think we are like, I should be cleaning the toilets by day 4. That was totally me, and it wasn't a good choice. Rest more. Your body needs that. You have that giant scab where your placenta was, and as you lift things, that scab pulls up because you're using those ab muscles, and you can bleed more. So if the bleeding increases, that is a huge sign that you're doing too much. You need to slow down, drink more water, not liquor, and just chill out. love that baby a little bit more, try and get more rest. Okay. The last thing is the smell. If all of a sudden it starts to smell different or look different, I mean, it's going to taper. So it's going to be like more brown. But if you notice any greenness, or mostly it's the smell that you're going to notice, that's a reason why you're going to need to call your provider. There is always the chance of an infection from any tearing or whatnot that went down there at the delivery. So it is something to watch for. Along with that, you're going to make sure that you don't have a fever. Now, you're not needing to check your temperature like every few hours, like we check the baby after you have a baby. But if you're starting to feel feverish, where you get those hot, cold sensations, just check a temp really quick. You can get those crazy night sweats, which can sort of feel a little bit like a fever, but just make sure that you don't have a fever. Because if you're starting to get a fever, and we recognize a fever as anything over 100.4, then you would want to call your provider and just let them know and see what they want to do. Okay. Now, along with bleeding, your pain should slowly be getting better. Yes, you might have like a big cramp. Cramps get worse with every baby. FYI, that second, third, fourth. The third one, by the end, I was like, now is when I need the epidural, not when I was in labor. It was painful. So if you're noticing though that the pain is getting worse, the cramping's getting worse, those kind of different things are getting worse. It's not tapering off. It's getting worse. Call your provider. That could be a sign that something's up, or it could just be a sign of natural healing. You never know, but it would be something that would trigger a phone call for me. Okay, any bladder infection type symptoms, frequency. I mean, you're going to pee a lot after you have the baby just because we give you a lot of fluid in the hospital. But if you're peeing really, really frequently, you feel like you need to pee all the time, you go to pee and like nothing's there, things like that, call your provider. You might just want to pop in and give a urine sample. There is a chance of a UTI after you have a baby, which would be miserable. So it would be something that you'd want to catch early on and just make sure that you're taking care of. Fever can also be a sign of a UTI, so that's something to watch for as well. Okay, and then finally, your emotions. If you find that you're having full days where everything is down and there's nothing that's like perked you up, that's something to watch for. And it's something for partners to watch out for. You guys have probably listened to my episode with Stephanie where we talk about the postpartum trigger signs. I'm going to link to that in the show notes, and it's definitely one that you guys should check out. But just be watching. It is very normal to have very high highs and very low lows during your postpartum period, especially those first couple of weeks. But if you're finding that you're just staying in the lows and you're not able to have any highs, no bouts of love or crying with happiness, then that's something that I'd probably want to talk with my provider about. And it's something that partners need to be watching for too. And you also should be watching your co-partner with this as well. Birth can be really difficult on dads and moms and all those different kinds of things. I have to say that I love the idea that both partners should be getting at least 4 hours straight at some point during the day. So that's something to strive for. It might not work for every family, especially if your partner has to go straight back to work, but hopefully they could maybe take maybe they take the 8 to 1 time frame and they watch the baby during that, and then they go to sleep before work, and then from 1 to whenever, then you're up with a baby. But honestly, if you can just get those 4 hours, a lot of those emotions subside and you're able to tolerate it all a whole lot better. So those are my postpartum trouble signs. I go over these in the online prenatal class for couples and a few other things. So definitely jump in there. My postpartum section is something that people just love. I'm so open and honest about what postpartum was like for me and what to expect and how it's so different than you would probably have imagined. So jump inside there. Actually, when I took over teaching classes for my hospital, their postpartum section was just like, it was so bad. It was like half an hour of teaching, and I ended up making it like 2 full sections. And I just think it needs that because we're just not prepared for it. So jump in the online prenatal class for couples. I'd love to see you in the postpartum section. Do not miss next week's episode. We are talking about how to organize for your new baby. So it is definitely an episode you are going to want to tune in for next Monday. Thanks so much for joining us on today's episode. We know you have lots of options for your ears, and we are glad that you chose us. We drop episodes weekly, and until next time, we hope you have a tangle-free day.